Joining us on the knock-on is former Leinster captain Chris Pim. Chris, how's things?
Good, yeah, not a bother. Another nice week there. A little bit around there yesterday just to give the grass a drink. But yeah, good week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Johnny Tobin can't make it with us this week. The irony being that he's up to his eyes in rugby at the moment. So we'll leave Johnny to it. Plenty happening, but I was talking to him. We did watch the Lions match and he was texting me during it as well and enjoyed it. And yeah, he's raging to be missing out, but we'll try and catch up with Johnny on next week's podcast. Chris, they won. That was great. To beat the Lions, you call it. You call it 1916.
1916. 1917 there, I was counting my money. But we tagged another penalty on the end there. So, yeah, look, it was it was a strange sort of game. As they say, the old-fashioned game at two halves, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of bits and pieces to talk about in it. I suppose overall, looking at the match, did South Africa lose it or did the Lions win it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about Rassie there before we came on air, but there was three massive decisions during the game, Tmo decisions that certainly had a big impact on the game. Now, the first one where Leroux was in front of the kicker, I thought was, Jesus, I couldn't see how he thought Leroux was in front. So I think certainly the South Africans were very unlucky in that regard to have that one overruled. But yeah, certainly that one certainly went in our favour, that's for sure. The second one, I think, which was the knock on by Steph the Choice, looked to me like he didn't touch it. And the ref awarded a try, so that was fine. And then what was the third one?
Hamish Watson's tip tackle.
Yeah. The tip, well, obviously the tip tackle as well, yeah, which saved his bacon. But then the other one was the Colby knock on for the other try. So yeah, look, you'd have to say on the balance of those three decisions that the Lions were a little fortunate, but I think the referee certainly got it right in 2 out of the 3 cases. So if you added back in the South African try, well, then you certainly got a very close game there as well. But you could possibly say that South Africa lost it on the basis that Pollard missed 2 very straightforward kicks as well. And you've got a try plus those 2 penalties. That's an 11-point swing. Yeah, look, South Africa could probably consider themselves unlucky. But on the balance of the game, certainly in the second half, the Lions totally dominated territory. I think I saw a stat somewhere. They had something like 76% of the second half was played in the South African half. And certainly the 2 tries they got, or the try that they got in the second half, was from deep. So it was really from a kick ahead that should have been tidied up a little better. Kick ahead from Farrell that should have been tidied up a little better than it was. So yeah, it was a strange game, an unusual game. Possibly too much kicking, which I think is possibly what we're going to get again tomorrow. But I think the Lions possibly looked the better side when they were carrying the ball. They strung more phases together. So, but yeah, look, the South Africans are going to be hurting and they're going to come out tomorrow big time.
How did you think they got on the physicality stakes, Chris? Obviously, as we were talking about last week, we knew the Lions weren't going to commit terrible numbers to rucks or anything like that, which is the tactic. How did you think they fronted up?
Yeah, look, I think probably the biggest single thing, I think we spoke about it last week as well, was the scrum. We were never under threat at any stage in the scrum. So their plan of bringing on their first team second row in the second half didn't work. And when we brought on our second string front row, they stood up really well as well. So, their front row, their starting front row, what should normally be their starting front row against what would normally be our front row got, I would have said Lions got the upper hand of both of them. So, Yeah, look, really interesting to see what happens tomorrow. But I think that the scrum is such a massive part of the game for them, and where they really stamped their authority on the game. They didn't get that dominance. I thought the Lions managed the breakdown much, much better than they had in the A game. And I thought Itoje was absolutely superb.
Yes.
Just absolute, way ahead of anything else they had on display. And certainly was, I can easily the best of the Lions forwards.
Yeah, he's some man. He's some physical specimen of a man. And he did. Chris, the line-out was a bit shaky. Some overthrows and just not something that they can. You're saying targeted the scrum. It's one area we can get South Africa, but they want to tidy up their lineouts a fair bit. We know that the only options really have against South Africa is go to the front. But yeah, a bit more accuracy needed there.
Yeah, I think as the game went on, there's a couple of ones early went astray, all right. But I think as the game went on, they kind of grew into it, and we scored off a rolling maul, which is like the ultimate insult to a South African side. So, I think mentally that just put the Lions in such a good place at the start of the second half to get that try off the line out when Alwyn Jones went for the corner instead of taking the 3 points. That was a massive turning point in the game. And to be fair, the Lions forwards never really looked back from that point on and never looked like they were a beaten force. Yes, South Africa got over the line twice in the second half, but very much from broken field stuff and not stuff that they'd created or developed through stringing 8-9 phases together. So, yeah, look, it was a much, much improved performance in the second half.
Absolutely. Tom Curry gave away a couple of penalties earlier on as well, which was annoying.
I thought he might have been in trouble this week.
Yeah.
But on the basis of the 3 early penalties, but I guess you've got a 22-year-old who's learning at every level. He won't give away 3 tomorrow, that's for sure. So it'll be really interesting to see, or not tomorrow, sorry, Saturday. It'll be interesting to see how he goes, but I am expecting I'll get a massive game from him. And really interesting to see what they've done with the bench. That they've 2 back rows, 1.5 back rowers on the bench with Faletau and Tadhg Byrne. So on the basis they picked Faletau, I thought they probably would have gone Henderson, so that you've got proper cover in the second row. But look, I mean, Tadhg can clearly fit in there, but if there was an injury in the first 5 minutes or something, it could be a long afternoon to have someone as light as Tadhg at that level of physicality. So I think that was a slightly strange call, and they'll be hoping that Itoje or Jones don't pick up a knock early on. So on that basis, it looks like a good call, but on the basis that there might be an injury, they're certainly taking a risk. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out.
Yeah, and Hamish Watson has been dropped off the match day squad altogether.
Yeah, he's a little unlucky, and certainly was lucky to stay on the pitch with the tip tackle. Any commentary you would have seen pretty much said he should have got a yellow. And yeah, it was, when it happened at first, it happened really, really quickly, and I actually thought it was fine as well to play on. But once and it's like anything, when you play it in replay, of course it looks worse.
Looks brutal.
But when you play it at normal speed, it's kind of almost like it happened so quickly you wouldn't even notice. And I think he kind of went through the process of putting him down as quick as he could as well, because he realized he had tipped him. So it was he was almost trying to pretend nobody saw it. But yeah, look, it got picked up, and I think he's extremely fortunate to stay on the pitch. But yeah, I mean, you could have made a case for starting him ahead of Curry, but and Curry was possibly a little lucky not to get a yellow with the late hit on Faf de Klerk. I know he got the penalty, and it was from where the ball landed. But yeah, on another day that could have been a yellow too, or if it was later in the game. So yeah, both of them were possibly a little fortunate in that position, in that case. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and Talupa Faletau is promoted at the expense of Hamish Watson as well. But Talupa, we sort of know what to expect from him on the bench anyway as cover. He's been around a while.
Yeah, look, and if he came on certainly for an injury, I'd be interested to see what they do, whether they'd move Jack Conan to 6 or play so they can play Toby at 8, or would they just slot Toby in at 6, because I know when the two of them were on the pitch together the last time, Jack actually stayed at 8. So maybe that's a sign, but then you've already got a 6 on the bench. What's the point of that? So yeah, look, I'm not quite sure where Gatland was going with that one, but on the basis he got his win, he's made the right call so far, and I think certainly as the mental battle of the coaches, he's certainly coming out on top at the moment, because I think Rassie's losing the plot a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that now in a small while, but he's gone a bit cray-cray, as the kids say. Jack Conan did nothing wrong, I don't think. Pretty solid performance, and he's back on the team this week.
Yeah, I thought all the Irish guys did really well. I thought Furlong was immense, and he's become such a linchpin in that side now. And, even as a leader, you can see him talking now, whereas, you would never have seen him talking in the past. So, I think he's becoming both a vocal and a physical leader of that side. And I think he was absolutely exceptional, and he just every time he gets in the ball, he's adding energy, and I thought he was just fantastic. Jack Conan again, without being spectacular, just work rate was phenomenal, and thought he had a really, really cracking game with a super carry count and a super tackle count as well. So yeah, look, a lot of positives, and I know there was a bit of media during the week, particularly from the Welsh guys, trying to get Toby back in the frame there. A lot of talk with Warburton and a couple of other guys I was listening to online were trying to make a case for bringing back in Faletau, but look, I thought very hard to fault Jack, and certainly Warren, when he was announcing his team, certainly backed that up as well. He said that he was really, really happy with him, and that he does the right thing at the right time in the right place. So yeah, he's absolutely superb. And then Henshaw, he is absolutely that leader in the background, in the back line now. Even when Farrell came on, you could see Henshaw making the calls. He was shouting, roaring. He's, so much is happening off him. He's spotting the space. He's kind of making the calls, talking the whole time as plays develop. So he's just become such a huge player for that line setup. A little surprised to see that. I thought they might look at bringing in Aki into in a 12 and leave things as they were, but and particularly on the basis that they're a pair and they're so used to playing together and so used to knowing what each other one does. And then you're bringing in Harris, who's obviously an unknown at this level, and obviously them having to shift Henshaw out of the 13 jersey, where he is so good, and he has that bit of time and vision. It's not something I would have done, but hey, I'm not picking the team, and Harris scores a hat-trick tomorrow, I'll be eating humble pie. So but look really good. I suppose it was probably a surprise that they promoted Murray ahead of Price. So Price had done well. He'd done nothing wrong, did very little wrong, and bringing Connor in to close the game out seemed to work really, really well. So you're slightly surprised to see that, but we know that Murray's a big game player, that Gatland has a lot of time for him. So I think, on the overall tour basis, you would have said you'd have been surprised to see him not getting picked last week. So on that basis, seeing him getting picked this week isn't a massive surprise.
Yeah, and when you put the games into context, you can wrap up the series this weekend, even though it's a 3-test series, and I think we forget that as well. So maybe experience side of it coming in there. Johnny Tobin sent me on a stat about Jack Conan, just briefly going back to him. He's the most metres carried by Lions forward in a test since 2009 in that match at the weekend. This is over 48 metres made or carried at that game. Jamie Heaslip was on 39, Sean O'Brien, David Wallace and Courtly Laws. Like, that's some stat to have from that. You can't argue statistics with statistics.
Well, they say truth lies in statistics, so maybe you can.
Absolutely. Vunipola is some dude. When he came on, I thought it was very.
We spoke about him last week. I'd have absolutely had him in the side. He's there on the basis of an injury to Wyn Jones, and gets in, and boy, does he take his chance. He was immense and never looked in the slightest bit of bother. And yeah, look, no surprise seeing him in there. He great bit of stuff, as I say. We're very surprised not to see him there in the first place, and shocked, obviously, to not see him in the 23. So, yeah, look, he got his chance and he took it, and fair play.
Yeah, and a bit of crack as well. He was asked in a press conference during the week. There was a bit of criticism about him grabbing Faf de Klerk and pulling him up off the line. For whatever reason, I don't see why that would be unsportsmanlike. He pulled him up. Faf turned around and went, grand, off he went.
Yeah, look, it was, and I know Rassie was going ape shit about that as well during the week. And I mean,
of course he was.
I think it's a sign of a man under pressure that he's kind of flapping at everything now. And he's only making himself look stupid at the moment. I think any moral high ground he had coming into the game with the whole psychology of being water boy and all this Twitter account stuff, I think he's just blown it now, to be quite fair. I think people are just laughing at him at this stage.
Yeah, it's all a bit cracked. We'll talk a bit more about the team selection for this week in a second, but we'll go straight into Rassie now while you're talking about him, Chris. So yeah, the Waterboy thing was the first thing to turn people's heads. It's not illegal, but it sort of is. In terms of World Rugby, it's a bit of a weird grey area one, but he did it and he doesn't care what people think. Then we had the Twitter burner account story coming out as well. He addressed that in a press conference this week and goes, "Oh no, I know that guy. He sends me stats and really cool videos all the time. Yeah, of course he does." And today, the press conference or overnight, he put together a video of all the ref decisions that were wrong, that didn't go South Africa's way, and the ones that went the Lions' way. 45 minutes of footage presented to the media. So, like, this is just sort of mind-blowing stuff from a coach. Like, he's either detracting away from the stuff he's doing himself, or he genuinely believes it. But Chris, World Rugby won't like this. This could go pear-shaped really quickly.
You could get it ticking off all right, but I think, look, he's always been his own man. He's always done stuff his own way. But I just think, I would have had a lot of respect for him. I thought he was a really good coach. I thought he was a really good man manager, and kind of just got on with the job without kind of shouting and roaring. But this kind of stuff is just... he's just washing away any credibility I think he would have had with the rugby community. As I said earlier, people just laughing at him now. I think it's just, it's unfortunate. But look, it'll be really interesting to see what it does to his own team. Whether, is that buying respect from his own players, or is he backing up what his own players are telling him? I don't know. I think it's stupid, to be quite honest. I don't think it's doing the game any good. I don't think it's particularly doing him any good, and most of all, it's no good for his team. He's not generating anything positive by doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, look, I think it's unfortunate, but it adds spice and it adds drama to the occasion, I suppose. And all the media build up between now and kick off, a lot of it will be about him as opposed to about maybe the shortcomings of his team. So maybe that's part of it, but I think it's highly unnecessary and not adding anything positive in my view.
Yeah, I would have been the same as you, Chris. Would have been a fan of his coaching style and everything. But this is all a different kettle of fish. But we'll have a look at the so the game is on Saturday, 5 o'clock kickoff, Cape Town again. So just looking through the team, we touched on bits and pieces of it earlier. So Conor Murray is one of 3 changes to the team. So he's promoted from the bench. Mako Vunipola, who both of us would have had as first choice on the front row, he's in. And Chris Harris comes into the team to partner Robbie Henshaw. Chris, of course, he's a Scottish player there as well. Yeah, as you said earlier, I was wondering about Aki, maybe on the bench or even coming in to start alongside Robbie, with that familiarity with the Irish team and everything else. But however, Rory Sutherland, Ali Price and Elliot Daly, they're onto the replacements now. Faletau's promoted at the expense of Hamish Watson. Probably to Chris, I'd say, add a bit of physicality off the bench, you know, in expectation that the Springboks go to their 6-2 sort of bomb squad, as they call it.
Yeah, so I saw that they went 6-2. So that's probably, you're right, that may be well part of the conversation. And so he does bring that, maybe that little bit more physicality than Hamish Watson would. So, but I think certainly from my perspective, the biggest surprise would have been Chris Harris in the 13 channel. And I think it's a big ask. And certainly Daylande, and they'll be looking forward to running down that channel. I'm not 100% sure how secure we'll be in that channel. And then obviously you're moving Robbie in one.
Yeah.
You know, while he's a very good tackler, he probably wouldn't be as impactful a tackler as Aki would be. So yeah, it's a slightly different tact, and maybe it's with a view to trying to run around the South Africans a little bit this week as opposed to through them. So maybe that's the psychology, and possibly that, you know, as we said earlier, Gatland doesn't get too many of those test decisions wrong. So yeah, look, we'll back him for now and see where it gets us on Saturday evening.
Yeah, and poor old Liam Williams. There's no sign of him on the team yet. So Elliot Daly is retained. He keeps his place on the bench. No, Liam Williams would have been starting all these games 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5, 4.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, whatever we're on before, yeah. But I think the piece about Liam Williams is the Van der Merwe was lucky to get in there in the first case.
Mm-hmm.
He did okay, but I actually thought if there was going to be a change to the back line, well, I would have made 2 changes. I obviously would have taken Daly out and brought in Aki, but I possibly would have looked at Van der Merwe as well and bring in Williams, because we didn't really win the aerial battle, certainly for the first 60 minutes. And I mean, Van der Merwe is a big man, but Colby got up over him twice, if not 3 times. And I just thought they'd relook at that and maybe seeing and looking and putting Williams in there, who's played a good bit on the wing for the Lions. So yeah, look, interesting call, but certainly was a surprise to see Van der Merwe hang on there. But yeah, look, and it'll be interesting to see, obviously, on the back of next week what happens. But we have to get through this week first. So
yeah, absolutely. Dan Biggar is going to partner Conor Murray, of course, at halfback. He is still has to come through the return to play protocols before that match as well. So he's being assessed by an independent consultant this week. But fingers crossed he'll be in. He was stable enough. In fairness, Chris, he did an awful lot long.
Yeah, he was okay. He missed a kick. You'd liked him to have got a real clutch kick there before half time. And, you know, you hate to see those straightforward kicks like that being missed in a big game. So I was kind of glad, to be fair, Farrell was taking the last kick. So at the final furlong there. And then, my God, my heart was in my mouth then when they regained the ball off the kickoff with only seconds to play. It was like, oh my God. I mean, that is just absolutely criminal to let the attacking team win a kickoff like that. So, but yeah, look, hopefully we tidy that up this week. That can't happen, because you're looking to close a game out like that. That's just scary stuff. It was squeaky bum time there with the last minute or so when they retained the ball for those 4 or 5 phases. And say, lucky Morrow came up again with a big claim, and he did really, really well. So yeah, look, we lived to tell the tale, and it was a great win. Yeah.
Stewart Hogg, how did you think he got on?
Did well. I thought he certainly in the second half as well. He grew into the game. He had a couple of chase kicks as well, where he closed down space really, really well. Yeah, I think he'll really, really benefit from last week's game, and certainly would have held on to him for this week. I thought he was, without being spectacular, I thought he did his basics well, bar one spill early on, but recovered really well. I thought he had a really solid game, which he wouldn't necessarily be known for. He'd normally be known for bringing a bit of magic to the game, but yeah, I thought he did his basics really well. I would see him having a big game, big part to play tomorrow. On Saturday, sorry.
You're grand. I'm in the same boat. You see, we've recorded the podcast on different days the last few weeks. So Chris is very confused.
I'm not quite sure what day the week it is now. So.
So Chris, looking at all that, looking at the team selection, looking at last week, you touched on it there. Are you sensing a change of tactics just to change it up for the second test? Because a lot of us will think, oh sure, if it worked last week, do it again this week. But Warren Gatland doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like that. And so I think, to be fair, I think the Lions will have a look at what the South Africans do. As in, if they're going to go direct route one again, Lions will just love that, because they've proven they can cope with it. They've proven they can handle it scrum time. The line-out was pretty good in general. And the breakdown, they didn't get hosed in the breakdown the way they had in the A game. So I think the Lions, they won't sit back, but mentally will kind of just have a look to see what way South Africa are going to take the game. Because if South Africa are going to try route one, well, the Lions just need to do what they did last week. And that's just be massively competitive at breakdown, massively competitive at the restart, and then they're right in the game. And you'd be kind of thinking, based on the way South Africa have played for the last 2-3 years, that I'm not altogether sure they have a wide game, and that they're built to play that kind of game. And I think possibly one of the factors as well that helped the Lions last week was possibly match fitness. I know we'd spoken about it before last week, whether it would be a factor, and I know Johnny had mentioned it. I think certainly in the last 60 minutes, in the last 20 minutes, the Lions did have more fitness. They were more match fit, and it did count. So on that basis, I think it'll be really interesting to see whether the South Africans are going to change their tack, because it's not something they've done before. So it'll be really interesting to see. But they it's kind of shit or bust tomorrow, or on Saturday, that they really do need to front up. So, but as I say, it'll be really interesting to see whether they go route one or whether they change tack and try and throw the ball around, which I think may well suit the Lions a little bit better.
Yep, chance to wrap it up on Saturday, Chris. It's a big game. If they treat it like a final, and then Bundy Aki can run out for the last game and can do what they want if they win this one, and everyone else that is looking for a cap as well. Do you want to call a score again, Chris? You were close enough last week.
Yeah, look, I'd be optimistic that I think we've got inside their heads a little bit. I think any of the mental barriers we would have had from a physicality point of view I think we've dealt with them now. If they come with a higher octane, more physical game, well, obviously we'll have to step up again, and remains to be seen whether they will or not. But on that basis, I'm going to stick with the Lions, and we'll go 25-16.
Very good. A try deep into the second half to secure it.
And for the Lions, my prediction from last week with the South African getting and sent off, that didn't come through, but it will this week because they're desperate.
There you are. You heard it here the first, lads.
There you go.
We're getting a box sent off and a good win for the Lions as well. Chris, it's great chatting to you, of course. Previewing the Lions against South Africa. The second test is on Saturday at 5 o'clock. It's on the telly and it's on the radio as well. Not KCLR now, but it'll be on some other radio stations and online stations, whatever. So keep an eye on it there. We're looking forward to it anyway. Chris Pim, thanks a million for talking to us.
Absolute pleasure, Stephen. Thanks again.